Landman Season 3 already feels different. And I don't mean slightly different, I mean the kind of different that changes everything we thought this story was building towards. Because after watching this trailer, something feels off. Not bad, not disappointing, just unsettling. Like things are finally falling into place, but at the exact same time, they're about to fall apart in a much bigger way than before. And if you thought Tommy finally found his way at the end of Season 2, you might want to think again. So let's start with the biggest thing the trailer makes very clear right from the beginning. This is not the same Tommy we left behind. At the end of Season 2, for the first time, everything actually felt stable. He wasn't chasing someone else's empire anymore. He wasn't stuck under Cammy's control. He wasn't trying to fix problems that never really belonged to him. Instead, he finally built something of his own. CTT Oil Exploration wasn't just a company. It was his statement, his way of saying, I'm done playing by other people's rules. And honestly, for a moment there, it really felt like he won. But this trailer quietly starts tearing that idea apart. Because even though everything looks bigger, cleaner, and more organized on the surface, there's this constant feeling that none of it is actually secure. You can see it in Tommy's expressions, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. He's not relaxed. He's not relieved. If anything, he looks more cautious than ever. And that's what makes this so interesting. Because usually when a character finally gets what they want, the story gives them a moment to breathe. But here, it feels like that moment is being skipped entirely. And when you really think about it, that actually makes perfect sense. Because Tommy didn't just start a company. He made a deal. And not just any deal. He partnered with Galino. And we all know by now, nothing involving Galino ever comes without consequences. Season 2 already showed us that favors come with a price. But what the trailer is hinting at is that the price this time might be much bigger than Tommy expected. There's also something else that stands out, the scale. Everything feels bigger now. The operations, the stakes, the risks. It's like the show has quietly shifted from survival mode to expansion mode. And that's dangerous. Because the bigger you grow in this world, the harder you fall. And Tommy knows that. That's why even when things seem to be working, there's this constant tension underneath it all. And then there's Cooper. Because if Season 2 made one thing clear, it's that Cooper is no longer just Tommy's son in the background. He's part of this world now. A big part of it. In fact, by making him president of the company, Tommy didn't just give him responsibility. He put a target on his back. And the trailer subtly reminds us of that. It doesn't need to show anything extreme. Just the idea that Cooper is involved at this level is enough to understand the risk. And that's where the emotional weight starts to build. Because now, every decision Tommy makes isn't just about business anymore. It's about family. It's about protecting something that's already proven to be vulnerable. And if there's one thing we've learned about Tommy, it's that when things get personal, he doesn't always make the safest choices. Which brings us back to that feeling something is off. Not in an obvious way. Not in a dramatic, explosive way like before. But in a quiet, building tension that feels heavier. Like the storm hasn't started yet, but it's definitely coming. And this time, it doesn't look like Tommy is trying to avoid it. It looks like he's walking straight into it. Now here's where things start to feel even more different, the power dynamics. Because if you really pay attention to the trailer, it's not just about Tommy building something new. It's about everyone else reacting to it. And that's a big shift from what we've seen before. In Season 2, Tommy was constantly reacting. Reacting to Cammy, reacting to Galino, reacting to problems that were thrown at him from every direction. He was always one step behind, trying to survive in a system that was never really his. But now, for the first time, it feels like he's the one making moves. And everyone else is trying to figure him out. And that alone changes everything. Because when you go from being the player to becoming the threat, the game gets a lot more dangerous. You can especially feel that tension when it comes to Cammy, because let's be honest, her story didn't just end in season 2. If anything, it feels like her real story is just beginning. She took control of MTX, she made her move, and for a moment, it looked like she had won. But the trailer gives off a completely different energy now. It doesn't feel like she's in control anymore. It feels like she's adjusting. And that's interesting because Cammy is not the kind of person who adjusts quietly. So the question becomes, what happens when she realizes that Tommy didn't just walk away? He built something that could actually compete with her. Because that's the part no one is saying out loud yet. CTT isn't just a fresh start. It's competition. Real competition. And in this world, competition doesn't stay professional for long. It gets personal, fast, then there's Galino. And honestly, this is where the trailer gets a little unsettling. Because unlike Cammy, Galino doesn't need to react loudly. He doesn't need to prove anything. He already has the power. And that's exactly why his presence feels so heavy even when he's not doing much. The trailer doesn't show him making big moves. But that's the point. When someone like Galino is quiet, it usually means something is already in motion. And if Tommy thinks he is in control of this partnership, that might be his biggest mistake yet. Because let's not forget that $18 million wasn't just support. It was leverage. It was a way in. And once someone like Galino has a way into your world, they don't just sit back and watch. They shape things slowly, carefully, and by the time you realize what's happening, it's usually too late. And that creates this constant tension throughout the trailer. Because on one side, you have Tommy trying to build something real, something independent, something that actually belongs to him. But on the other side, you have forces that don't really care about ownership. They care about control. And those two things, they don't mix well. There's also a noticeable shift in how the crew feels. In season 2, they were trying to hold things together. There was always this sense that everything could fall apart at any moment. But now, there's a sense of confidence, almost like they believe this might actually work. But at the same time, it feels fragile. Because deep down, you can tell that this version of success hasn't really been tested yet. It looks good on the surface, but the real pressure hasn't hit. And when it does, that's when we'll see who can actually handle it. And that's what makes this trailer so interesting. It's not trying to show chaos right away. It's doing the opposite. It's showing structure, growth, and progress, but in a way that feels almost too smooth. And when something feels too smooth in a story like this, it usually means something is about to go very wrong. So yeah, everything is bigger now. The company, the stakes, the risks, the relationships. But the real difference. Now, when things start falling apart, there's a lot more to lose. But if there's one thing this trailer quietly builds up, it's the emotional pressure. And not in an obvious, dramatic way. It's much more controlled this time. Almost like everything is being held in. Until it can't be anymore. Because when you really look at Tommy in this trailer, something feels heavier, not chaotic like before, not desperate like season 2. Just weighed down. And that's a very different kind of pressure. It's the kind that doesn't explode right away. It builds slowly, quietly, and when it finally breaks, it hits harder than anything we've seen before. And a big part of that comes from his relationship with Cooper, because this isn't the same dynamic anymore. Cooper isn't just someone Tommy is trying to protect from the outside world. He's inside it now, deep inside it. He's making decisions, taking responsibility, carrying weight that honestly, he might not be fully ready for yet. And Tommy knows that. You can feel it in the way he looks at him, the way he listens, the way he doesn't immediately step in like he used to. There's this internal conflict. He wants Cooper to grow, to take control, to become something more. But at the same time, he knows exactly what this world does to people. And that's where things get complicated, because giving Cooper power also means exposing him to danger. Not just physical danger, but emotional, psychological, and moral pressure. The kind that changes people. And if Season 2 showed us anything, it's that Cooper already crossed a line once. He acted on instinct, on emotion, and it nearly destroyed everything. So now the question becomes, what happens when he's put in a position where those instincts actually matter? Because being president of a company like this, it's not just about making smart decisions. It's about making hard ones. Decisions that don't always have a right answer. Decisions that come with consequences no matter what you choose. And that's where Tommy's biggest fear probably comes in. Not losing the company. Not losing control. But losing his son to the same world that shaped him. And then there's Angela. Because if there's one character who always brings out a different side of Tommy, it's her. And the trailer hints at that emotional connection still being very much alive, but also strained. There's distance there. Not physical distance. Emotional distance. Like they're both trying to hold on to something that keeps slipping away. And that's important. Because Tommy has never really been good at balancing his personal life with his professional one. It's always one or the other. And now that everything is bigger, more intense, more demanding, that imbalance is going to become even more noticeable. And that's where things start to feel fragile again. Because while the business side of things is growing, the personal side feels like it's barely holding together. And in stories like this, it's usually the personal cracks that lead to the biggest collapses. There's also this subtle reminder throughout the trailer that the past isn't really gone. What happened with Ariana? What happened with Cooper, the violence, the consequences? All of that doesn't just disappear. It lingers. It shapes how these characters think, how they react, how they make decisions. And even if the trailer doesn't show those events directly, you can feel their impact. It's like everything that happened in Season 2 is still sitting just beneath the surface, waiting to come back up. And that's what makes this season feel different on an emotional level. It's not just about what's happening now. It's about everything that has already happened, catching up to them. So while Section 1 showed us that the world is bigger, and Section 2 showed us that the stakes are higher, this part of the trailer makes one thing very clear. The pressure isn't just external anymore. It's internal. And that's the kind of pressure you can't run from. And this is where the trailer starts hinting at something even bigger, the consequences. Not the immediate ones, but the kind that take time to show up. The kind that don't hit all at once, but instead unfold slowly, piece by piece, until there's no way to stop them. Because if you look closely, this season doesn't feel like it's building toward one big explosion. It feels like it's building toward multiple breaking points, different storylines, different characters, all heading in directions that don't quite align. And when that happens, things don't just go wrong, they collapse. Take Tommy's deal, for example. On the surface, it still looks like a smart move. He got funding, he got independence, and he got control over something that finally feels like his. But the trailer keeps reminding us, control in this world is never absolute. It's borrowed, temporary, and usually conditional. Because even though Tommy is running CTT, the reality is, he didn't build it alone. And that matters more than ever now. The moment you bring someone like Galino into your foundation, you're not just sharing success, you're sharing risk. And the trailer quietly suggests that this partnership isn't as balanced as Tommy might believe. You can feel it in the tone, in the way certain conversations seem slightly off, like there are things being said and things being held back at the same time. And that's dangerous, because misunderstandings in this kind of world don't lead to arguments. They lead to consequences, real ones. Then there's the outside pressure. Because as CTT grows, It doesn't just attract opportunity, it attracts attention. And attention in this industry isn't always a good thing. Competitors start watching, rivals start calculating, and people who were once irrelevant suddenly become interested. And that's where the scale of this season really starts to show. It's not just about Tommy versus one person anymore. It's about Tommy versus a system. A system that's much bigger, much more established, and much less forgiving. And the trailer hints at that by expanding the world around him. More moving parts, more players, more unpredictability. Which means one thing, mistakes are going to cost a lot more now. And then there's the crew. Because while everything looks strong on the outside, you can't ignore the fact that this is still a group of individuals with their own limits, their own fears, and their own breaking points. Giving them profit shares and leadership roles might have created unity, but it also created pressure. Because now, it's not just Tommy carrying the weight. Everyone is. And that changes how people behave. It changes how they react under stress. It changes how loyal they are when things start going wrong. Because loyalty is easy when things are working. The real test comes when they're not. And the trailer subtly plants that idea. Not through big conflicts, but through small moments, small hesitations, small looks, small signs that maybe everything isn't as perfectly aligned as it seems. And that's what makes this so tense. Because nothing has gone wrong yet, but you can feel that it will. There's also this growing sense that Tommy might be pushing forward without fully considering what's behind him. Not in a reckless way, but in a focused way. Like he's so locked in on making this work that he's not looking at the bigger picture. And that's usually where things start to slip. Because success can be just as blinding as failure. So while everything in the trailer points toward growth, expansion, and opportunity, it also quietly builds this underlying truth. Every step forward comes with a cost. And this time, that cost might not be something Tommy can simply walk away from. And this is exactly why the trailer leaves you with that lingering feeling. Not excitement alone, but uncertainty. Because for the first time, it doesn't feel like the story is building toward a clear direction. It feels like it's opening multiple paths. And none of them look easy. Because when you step back and look at everything together, one thing becomes very clear. Tommy is standing at the highest point he's ever reached, but also the most unstable one. He finally has control. He finally has ownership. He finally has a team that believes in him. But at the same time, every single one of those things can be taken away. And not slowly, but all at once. And that's what makes this season feel bigger than anything before it. Because earlier, Tommy was trying to survive in someone else's world. If things went wrong, he could walk away, start over, find another way. But now, this is his world. His name, his company, his decisions. Which means if it falls apart, there's nowhere to run. And I think that's the biggest shift this trailer is trying to show us that this isn't about whether Tommy can handle pressure anymore. We already know he can. It's about whether he can handle responsibility at this level. Because pressure affects you. But responsibility, it affects everyone around you. And that's where things start to feel dangerous, because every decision he makes now impacts Cooper, impacts Angela, impacts the entire crew. And when you carry that kind of weight, even the smallest mistake can turn into something much bigger. There's also this growing question that the trailer never directly answers. Is Tommy actually building something sustainable? Or is he just repeating the same cycle in a different form? Because if you really think about it, he wanted independence. He wanted to stop working under people like Cammy. He wanted to build something of his own. And now that he has it, he's still tied to someone like Galino. So is this truly freedom? Or just a different version of the same problem? And that question alone adds a whole new layer to everything we're seeing. Because it suggests that maybe the real conflict of Season 3 isn't just external. It's internal. It's about Tommy understanding what he actually wants and what he's willing to risk to keep it. And then there's the final feeling the trailer leaves behind. It doesn't end with chaos. It doesn't end with a big reveal or a shocking moment. It ends with calm, but not the kind of calm that feels safe. The kind that feels temporary, like everything is holding together, just long enough for something bigger to hit. And if there's one thing this show has taught us, it's that calm like that never lasts. So yeah, the trailer is good. Really good. But it's not just good because of what it shows. It's good because of what it doesn't show. Because underneath all the progress, all the growth, all the confidence, there's something waiting. Something that hasn't surfaced yet. And when it does, that's when we'll truly see what this new version of Tommy and this new world he's built is actually made of. And something tells me it's not going to be as stable as it looks. Landman Season 3 already feels different. And I don't mean slightly different. I mean the kind of different that changes everything we thought this story was building towards. Because after watching this trailer, something feels off. Not bad, not disappointing, just unsettling. Like things are finally falling into place, but at the exact same time, they're about to fall apart in a much bigger way than before. And if you thought Tommy finally found his way at the end of Season 2, you might want to think again. So let's start with the biggest thing the trailer makes very clear right from the beginning. This is not the same Tommy we left behind. At the end of Season 2, for the first time, everything actually felt stable. He